All right, we're back. Welcome to the Kenobi Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Chris Kenobi, and right there, I've told you who he is. You should know who he is. You don't need me to introduce this man. This man is known all over this and a galaxy far, far away. He is a leader, a captain, a general, a man of integrity, a man that cares about his fellow man and woman, a man that trained the chosen one. Man that trained Luke Skywalker, the man who himself put himself in isolation for some 20 years, left everything and lost everything he had dear, his friends, his family. He lost it all, but he never went to the dark side. He never gave in to revenge. He never gave in to getting even. He never gave in to wanting to take it all back or hurt those that hurt him. This is my friend. He's a good guy. He's a leader to me. I call him Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi, talk to me, baby.
Hello there.
Back at you. I love this guy. This is what it's all about. I would have never done this thing if it wasn't for Obi-Wan Kenobi encouraging me to start a podcast. Okay, you think I'm crazy, but I don't care. Okay, let's keep going. I'm going to start something new today. I'm going to try to stay on top of it. It's called Revelation News. Revelation News. The revealing of news. The revealing of news that relates to the revelation, to the revealing of who? Our chosen one. You know, when you look at biblical prophecy and you look at how it's supposed to be in the what we call the end times, how society is supposed to be, how life is supposed to be, how laws are supposed to be, it's hard to imagine in our society today that you would think that the time will come where people literally can get arrested for just saying that they believe in Jesus. Now, in America, we rest easy and shake our head and say that'll never happen. But it is happening in other places of the world today. And so when somebody asks me, how do you think the world's going to get to that place? I mean, how can we just one day wake up and, people are getting arrested? And I say to them, it's not the big steps that's going to make way for societal decline. It's the little steps down that we take every day and the decisions that we make in our morality and who we are and what we believe and how things become skewed, how we and our leaders change times and laws today to make things what may seem easier for them or one side of the political spectrum, but how it opens the door for ripping out the fundamentals of who we are as American, the fundamentals of what it means to be an American, the fundamentals for how America was started in the first place. Those decisions that are being made every day, whether they are moral decisions that affect lives, financial decisions, if they're political decisions, even decisions as we micromanage our own lives and our own conduct in our own families and the things that we say and the things that we believe and how we treat people and how we respond to certain things. These are the things that will degrade our society. And these are the little steps downward, in my opinion, that make it easier for an antichrist to rise. Every step as society we take down, every step in society, the antichrist rises. And so don't look at things as if you shake your head and look at how we are living today as if this will never happen. It can happen. It will happen. So I want to start Revelation News, just a couple items I pick out just to talk a little bit to you about it because I want you to be aware of what's happening. You may be someone on the side of a political spectrum and say, you know what, these are good decisions that's being done today. These are good things that are being done today. Nevertheless, I want you to understand that what could be good today, again, is another down step for our society, even though it makes a large segment of that society happy, a relative. It's a step up for worldwide chaos, the arrival of the Antichrist. All right, so let's talk about that today. Let's talk about the first thing I want to talk to you about is starvation. You know, when I was growing up, we didn't have a lot of food. And I can tell you point blank, I know what it feels like to be hungry. Okay. And as little bit of food as we had, our parents would always tell us, don't waste food. Clean your plate. There are people starving in Africa, right? We've all heard that. Whether you're black or white, you've probably heard that phrase. Well, there are people starving in Africa. There's people starving in Africa right now. But I want you to know, are you aware that there's a segment of people right now in Africa that's starving in no small part to our country, in no small part to the decisions our country has made, the leadership of our country. Now, I don't know if you're aware of that or not. I don't know if you are, and if you don't care, if you do care, but I want to make it known to you that is these kind of steps downward that will make it easier for a chaos to arise, disobedience and civil unrest to arise, an antichrist to arise, war to arise, and so much more. So I want to talk to you about starvation. There's people that are starving in the Sudan right now. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but you can please do your own research. What we did in America, we had something called USAID. And I'm not making this a political newsreel. I'm not talking left or right. I'm talking this is what happened. This is what's happening. And whether you're a side that supported it, didn't understand it, or a side that was against it, this is where we are. Okay? So we had USAID. It was something that America called America's soft power. It's America by spreading our wealth and goodness and what we believe in and our morality for our fellow man all across the world. America was given access to certain areas that were strategic to us. America was given insight and intelligence to things that were important to us because we were the shining city on the hill. We were the ones that gave you the food. We were the ones that gave you medicine. We were the ones that sent doctors to help you, not these other nations. And so because of that, and our soft power, America gained power without even using guns, bullets, or any kind of political influence, okay? Our president and our Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, incidentally, Marco Rubio, and I can show you can look this up yourself, was a main supporter of USAID in the past until he became a Sith apprentice. He is now a Sith. Marco Rubio's a Sith. Look it up. I did one on it. Sith of the week. He was my first Sith. Okay, so our president and the Secretary of State decided to cancel USAID. And the question is why? Because they said there was so much government waste. We were sending 1 million condoms and that was untrue. The things that they said were untrue. But I saw a lot of Trump supporters publish these things and the list that Caroline Levitt gave about the misuse and the waste of USAID. More than half of that list was untrue. I see her up there speaking with the cross on. Again, she's got to deal with that. The point I'm trying to make to you is we were sending 5, 6, 7, 8 tons of food over to the Sudan because there's a civil war there and these kids couldn't get lunch. They couldn't eat. They had no food there. We decided that we were going to stop sending USAID to the Sudan. Now, there was a shipment right ready to go when our president took office. And our president and Marco Rubio said, stop that shipment. Leave that food in the warehouse. Okay? And what happened after that was, you and I know how it feels. What our mother said, you better cook that before it spoils. You ever go to the supermarket and you buy something? You put it in the refrigerator. You have all these expectations of making this great meal out of it. And then a day go by and 2 days go by and something says to you, if you don't cook this, you have wasted your money and this food is going to spoil. The food was already prepared for the Sudanese, those children. It was ready to go. We stopped it in a warehouse. And instead of sending it, okay, you said that you're not going to send any more, but this food is already there. I mean, why not just give them this and say this is the last shipment, right? Why let it spoil? But we did allow it to spoil, and when it spoiled, we burned it. And so millions of kids involved in the middle of a civil war could not find any food to eat. Now that's real. And so we wonder how famine can come in the world. And I said last week when we were talking about Revelation chapter 6 and the 7 seal scroll judgments that famines in nature are not because of a lack of resources. Famine in nature is because of geopolitical decisions. Somebody's making decisions of who eats and who doesn't eat, and who eat what and who doesn't eat what. As we clearly saw in the scripture verse that said, you know what? It's going to be a day's wages just for a loaf of bread. You're going to have to work in the end times. You're going to have to work for a whole day. Now just think, you could be some right now on a salary of $1,000 a day, $250 a day, $50 a day, but it's going to cost you 8 hours for one loaf of bread. That's geopolitical, because the verse also says, do not spare the oil and the wine. And we talked about this last week about how these oligarchs are even now building their own doomsday bunkers. Or they have their own hospitals and doctors on staff, and they'll have their wine and their food all ready for them to go so they can hang out when the apocalypse happens. So famine is really caused by geopolitical issues. All right. So let's take a look at this and let's see what it says on Revelation News. It says starvation or execution. Sudanese under siege face death everywhere. Families in El Fashir are eating. Listen to this. Listen to this now. In America, you would never even think that you would come to something like this. Okay? But see, I'm going to say this, and this is probably why our president don't want to talk about he's getting rid of everything in the Smithsonian, because he don't want to talk about slavery. See, the slaves were thrown slops like animal feed. We were thrown the food that no one else wanted to eat. Now, these people right there are eating animal feed. Have you ever thought that you'll be in a position that you would have to eat animal feed? Well, the Bible clearly says one day, if you're still here or your descendants are here, that they're going to work a whole day for barley, which is used for animal feed. Now, it says families in Fashir are eating animal feed. Children have been assaulted while foraging for food. Those who try to escape have been kidnapped and killed. This is serious business. These are the things that erode our society. Decisions like this. Now, we have to understand. I'm not talking to you on a political level. I'm talking about the basic humanity and morality and the conscience that as created beings, we all share. We all have a conscience. We all have a sense of humanity. We were all taught yes and no. Don't put your finger in the plug, right and wrong to some degree. I'm not even talking about your spiritual affiliation, your political affiliation. I'm talking to you on a basic morality, humanity level. There's no outrage about these people dying and eating food, animal food, because we're safe. We're on the coastline. We're separated from all of this. Do not spare the oil and the wine. We can eat steak, but they can eat animal feed. That's the decision. See, on a small scale, that's what we're doing right now. Do not spare the oil and the wine. Do not spare my food. I still have my steak and my chicken, and I still have my cornflakes and my Cheerios and all of the fast food places and all of the great restaurants. But right now, there are children over there starving and being assaulted because they're starving, foraging for food. But it didn't have to be that way. Okay? So here it is. Next screen. It says a displaced man is reunited with his sister's nephew and nieces after the family fled the city of El Fashir amid ongoing conflict with paramilitary rapid support forces and the Sudanese army. Okay, so this guy's on the run in the middle of a civil war, not eating, foraging for food. Women and children are being assaulted as they are going through the garbage looking for food. Let me read you another scope of this. It says, there is death everywhere, said one resident. The RSF's actions may amount to the crime against humanity of extermination, the United Nations declared. Families inside the city have been reduced to eating leaves and animal feed. They recounted women and children being captured and assaulted while foraging for wild plants. Here's the thing. This is when this stopped. There have been no international aid deliveries since April. Since April. Our president stopped it. Now, I'm going to say this. Now, I'm going to say one thing on the geopolitical side. To those Republicans that supported our president, still do, on a moral humanity level, you have to be sorry, have some compassion, some empathy for these children that are starving right now. And now that you know about it, would you be challenged to at least call your congressman and let them know, hey, listen, I'm not in for this USAID cancellation in Sudanese. I want that food sent back over there. Is that something, again, on a moral, human level? Okay, so now this is being sent all over the internet, and this speaks to something else. I'm going to read this to you, but this is what's popping up. It's like pop-ups. And look at this. This is from this guy. I don't know who this guy is, but this is what he sent out. And it speaks volumes. If you still support the guys, in other words, President Trump and Marco Rubio, who burned 550 tons of food to ash so it didn't accidentally feed 1.5 million children, keep Jesus out of your mouth. You're not Christian. Now, I'm not sitting here saying to you that I'm in for that. But I'm going to say it does speak volumes about now. I'm going to separate some of this, these sects. I am talking to my Christian brothers and sisters. And I guess the question really becomes to you, what makes us Christian? What makes us followers of the way? What makes us followers of Jesus Christ? What makes us dare say that we are followers of Jesus Christ? And it's a good question, because in my Bible, it talks about him feeding the 5,000 and feeding the 4,000. Let me ask you a question, my fellow believers. Do you really think that Jesus would be cool with 550 tons of food being burnt to ash so children and families can eat animal feed and forage for leaves? And while they're doing that, being captured, kidnapped, and assaulted? I mean, do you think that Jesus would be cool with that? And if you say absolutely not, now listen now, if you say Jesus would be cool with that, then I'm going to have to say, I'm going to have to call you on that, and I'm going to personally have to question your Christianity. Because whatever we both can agree about Jesus, even if you're not Christian, I think anybody would know enough about Jesus' character to say he wouldn't be cool with burning 550 tons of food to ash that 1.5 million children couldn't eat. And as they were eating animal food and going through the garbage, they were being kidnapped and assaulted. I don't think Jesus will go for that. So now that you know, what are you prepared to do? Are you prepared? And I know that our president enjoys a great support from the evangelical community. What are you prepared to do in terms of now that you know? Are you prepared to call your president, your congressman, your councilman, and say, hey, listen, I'm not all for you guys burning that food. That was waste. It was a waste of taxpayer dollars, by the way. You wasted my money. 1.5 million children, people are dying over there, being messed up. I want USAID back to the Sudan. Are you prepared to do that on a Christian level? Okay, moving on. Now let's talk about something else. Let's talk about something else that's coming down because it's serious business. It's serious business. I want to talk to you about our Constitution. I've got to talk to you about our Constitution. I've got to talk to you about it because it means so much, and it is so much, and it's so important to talk about because, you see, the Constitution is the foundation of who we are. It's who we are. It's who we are and what we believe as a nation. It represents why America became America. Why America became and why we left a place where we were subjugated to be a place where we were free to love, free to eat, free to work, free to speak your mind, free to say something's wrong, even if the politicians don't like it. This is why they left. They didn't want to be under a king who said, if you talk about certain things, you'll be thrown in the stockade or you'll be killed. This is why America became America. And we can all agree on that. Regardless of political or spiritual affiliation, regardless of nationality. And so it says right here, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, of abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Do you understand what that's saying? I've got the right to say what I want to say. You may not like what I'm going to say, but I've got that right because I am an American to say it. That's what it says. Amendment number 1, that was the first thing they put in there because they wanted to be free. I remember something Muhammad Ali used to say all the time. He would say, I'm free. You can't tell me what. I'm free. I'll say what I want to say. That's why they had number 1, to be free, to be able to say what they wanted to say. Now, this brings me up to a very interesting point in our society right now, the issue of Charlie Kirk. Okay? And I have to say this. Everyone have idols, and we all have heroes and people in our country, in our country's history over certain seasons of our lives that we look up to, that we have revere for, we have honor for, people that we believe in what they stood for, people that we believe how they played in sports or how they talked or how they sung, how they made millions of records and how they spoke and what they did. We all have heroes. We all have heroes. But the thing about it is your hero may not be my hero. Right? My hero may not be your hero. When I was growing up, my hero was Muhammad Ali. He was one of my heroes. The fact that he stood up for what he wanted, the fact that he went against America, the fact that he stood on his morals. He was prepared. He didn't run. He went to jail. He didn't have bone spurs. He didn't have somebody rich to get him out of trouble. He stood lost, and they stripped this man of everything. And he turned from a Christian to a Muslim. Okay, I'm not happy about that. But still, he was one of my idols. And when he passed away, a lot of people were sad. They respected him. They honored his legacy and what he stood for, the contributions he made to sports, the contributions he made to civil rights, everybody, but there were some people that were happy that Muhammad Ali died. There were people that just didn't like Muhammad Ali because he was Muhammad Ali. And they, under the banner of Americanism, they were free to say that they didn't like my hero. They said it. When Malcolm X passed away, and by the way, Malcolm X was assassinated in front of his children. There were many people that mourned the passing of Malcolm X, but there were a lot of people that were glad that Malcolm X passed away. They enjoyed the fact that Malcolm X passed away. They reveled in the fact that Malcolm X passed away when Martin Luther King was assassinated. There were many people that mourned, white and black, that he was assassinated and passed away in such a way. But there were many people, as you know, that were glad that Martin Luther King was assassinated and passed away. I'm not going to say that Charlie Kirk would have been happy about that, but we do know that where Martin Luther King was my hero, he was certainly not the hero of Charlie Kirk, who said himself that Martin Luther King wasn't a good guy. Now, I'm gonna say something here. We live in a society where I think it shows a lot, and it's sad that I've got to preface whatever I say or whatever anyone says about Charlie Kirk by saying that I'm sorry he's gone. I'm sorry what happened. It was wrong, and so on and so forth. And all that's true. But the fact that we are in a society that I have to prove that as a preference for what I'm going to say next really shows the degrading of our trust with one another. It shows the degrading of our society, that I've got to prove myself to you. Okay? So putting that aside and going back to Charlie Kirk believed in freedom of speech. Charlie Kirk believed in it. He enjoyed it. He enjoyed debate. Everyone says that. He took you on one-to-one. He didn't hold back whatever he had to say. Surely you know that there were things that Charlie Kirk said about some people that could have been other people's heroes, that would have gotten upset about it when he talked about Michelle Obama and he talked about the Supreme Court judge, when he talked about the Civil Rights Act, when he talked about certain things. Surely you know that other people probably said, that's not right. He's talking about my hero, right? But the difference is that Charlie Kirk rested in the Constitution. He believed in it, and he himself enjoyed the freedom to be free to say whatever he wanted to say. And I'm going to say this straight out. I think that if anyone, for the same type of people that would revel in Martin Luther King's death, for the same type of people that will revel in Muhammad Ali's death, for the same type of people that will revel and make jokes or laugh at what happened to Charlie Kirk, I think is demoralizing and despicable. And I will say that's another example of the degradation of our society, that people, we're losing our empathy. He said he didn't have any, but we still do. But it shows that we're losing empathy to even care for somebody, not because of their political views, not because of their religious views, not because of their sexual preference, not because of that, but on a basic human level. We're getting to a society that we simply don't even care about humans. So this is how these little steps downwards make it easy for an antichrist to rise. So anyone that said those things and reveled in this, you're despicable. I agree. Totally despicable. No place in a rational society for that type of behavior. But here's the problem I have. There are many people that did not laugh at or joke about what happened to Mr. Kirk. But there are a lot of people that just were numb to it because they didn't care for him as a person and what he said. So while they didn't relish in it, they certainly didn't join the masses and mourn in it. And those people basically just said how I felt about him, how I felt. He said this, and this. So I didn't like the guy. Now, do you know that those people, there are some people that are losing their jobs, got clipped. And yeah, Jimmy Kimmel, we know about that. But he's a millionaire. He can hang. But there are people that pay their mortgages and have car payments that are getting fired just because they said they didn't like the guy. There are people out there right now that are having problems thinking about how am I going to pay my rent because I got fired just because I said how I felt about the guy. There are people that are being ratted out by their coworkers to human resources for just saying how they felt about the guy. Now, can you step back, whether Charlie Kirk was one of your heroes or not, can you step back and see how this step downward, attacking freedom of speech, my right to say whatever I want to say, your right to say whatever I want to say, whatever you want to say. Now, when you take away those rights in this level and with this degree, with this ferocity, where people are being fired, people are being threatened, people are being attacked, people are being hurt, people are losing income, employment, when you take it away with such ferocity, can't you see that that is another step downward in our society? In the very morals and humanity that makes a society a society? Can't you see that? So my point of view is if you can rest in your hero, and it's okay, and you have a right to, and you can say all the wonderful things that you're saying, and that's okay. You have the First Amendment right to say that. Shouldn't I have that same right if I just say I didn't like the guy? Shouldn't I have that same right to say, you know what, I didn't care for what he said. I'm sorry. Are you upset about it? No, I'm sorry it happened. I'm sorry for his wife and children. Of course. But I'm not going to where I was. I'm not going to go. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. I think it's a little bit too much. Shouldn't I have the right to say that without retaliation, without fear? Shouldn't I have the right to say that without worrying where my job is going to, where the bullet's going to come from, where the attack will come from? Who's going to rat me out? Who's not going to speak to me anymore because I had a different view about who this person was? Don't you see? That's a degrading of our society. And I'll tell you this, it's a big down step, because when you have people that are, and what's happening is that when you have people that are controlling who says what to whom, you have stopped becoming a free society. I don't know about American history and all this stuff, but I can tell you that when these things happen in North Korea, that kind of stuff happens in China. That stuff happens in Russia, where if you say the wrong thing about Putin, your next drink could be your last drink, or you find yourself in a Russian prison somewhere. She will just have you executed. Kim will just have you executed and your whole family executed. And he'll sit there with popcorn doing it. So I think that Charlie Kirk, and I never met the man, but he believed in the First Amendment. Of course he did. I would like to think that he would be appalled that that his death would be the catalyst for us going down another step to take away the very right that he had. Now, before you say that's just too much, I want you to look at something from our president when he was inaugurated.
After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America.
Now that's what he said, and you saw his picture there. He said he was for free speech. He believed in the Constitution. He swore an oath to protect and defend our Constitution, right? This is what he's saying now. For those people on TV, The View and other comedians that talk about him, this is what he's saying now.
Mr. President, who would you like to see? Mr. President, are you going to ask Brendan Carr to weigh in on other late-night hosts that you have essentially off the air?
Late-night host is on network television. There is a license. I'll give you an example. I read someplace that the networks were 97% against me. I get 97% negative, and yet I won easily. I won all 7 swing states, popular, I won everything. And 97% against. They give me only bad publicity or press. I mean, they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away. It will be up to Brendan Carr.
Brendan Carr is his secretary of the FCC. Brendan Carr went on Fox News hours before Jimmy Kimmel was let go and said he should ABC should lose his license. ABC is in the process of a huge merger, billions of dollars right now. Jimmy Kimmel gets pulled. Whether you like Jimmy Kimmel or not, doesn't he have the right to say whatever he wants in a free society? Whether you like him or not, doesn't he have the same right that Charlie Kirk used and had and enjoyed to say whatever he wanted to say, even though it offended many? You see, this is a step downward. So now you're controlling who says what on TV. You're controlling the news. You're controlling the media. So can't you see, regardless if he was your hero or not, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of your spiritual affiliation, can't you see that this is not just a small step? This is a leap down a couple of steps when you're attacking the very First Amendment, the thing that we believe in. Now, you got to admit that. And here's another thing. When you're slowly encroaching on freedoms of other people, when you're slowly encroaching on freedoms of other people, and you're using nationality and you're using sexual preference as a means to go after people. Right now, that's something that probably by a lot can be enjoyed. If we're going to use immigration and get rid of all of the rapists and some of them are not nice people, but understand what's happening with immigration. Some of these people are not bad people. Some of these people may be illegal, but they're your neighbors. You know them. And some of these people work at Home Depot. They wash dishes in the restaurants that we enjoy. Some of these people take their kids to the same schools and drop them off wanting a better life. Some of these people are decent Americans, just don't have the paper. They pay taxes. They obey the laws. They do what they have to do because they want to be here. Now, listen, again, whether you agree with our immigration policy or not, on a basic human level, when you've got a father being snatched out of his car while he's taking his child to school, when you have people being stripped out of cars by guys in masks and thrown, and you can't even find them anymore, can't you see that that is another leap downward in the degradation of our society, where it makes it easy 10, 20 years from now, 5 years from now, where somebody can say, I'm going to put you in jail if you say something bad about this political figure. I'm going to do this to you if you say something bad about this political figure. I'm going to put you in jail if you say something bad about the Antichrist or whoever that leader's going to be. Can't you see that it's going to be easy for people to say, I'm not going to feed you unless you take his mark. I'm not going to give you medicine unless you take his mark. We're making these small decisions now. And right now, we don't seem to care because from a human level, and we're all to some degree selfish, but on a human level, the monster may be knocking next door, but he's not knocking on my door. I'm safe from the monster. The monster knows me. I fed the monster. I told the monster he's doing good. Everybody says that until one day the monster knocks on your door. Until one day there's another monster replacing this monster, and then the wheel turns, and then it's your turn to be worried about the monster knocking on your door. Can't you see that this type of policy, these type of things are degrading who we are as Americans, as human beings on a human level? Forget everything else, but we're all human. We all have a conscience. We all know right from wrong. We all believe we were all created equal on those levels. Stop right there. Human, conscience, right, wrong, humanity. We all know what love is. We all know what friendship is. We all have these basic emotions of help someone in need. Do you really think that this is the way that our society needs to flow right now? And then finally, I'm going to leave you with this, and this is spiritual. Finally, when I talk about the end times to people, and I've read tons of books from experts on eschatology, no one, not even your pastors, not even the people you read, can tell you where America winds down in the end times. What happens to America when Jesus comes back? What happens to America with the rise of the Antichrist? Surely we believe, right, as Americans, we want to believe that we would be one of those nations that stands up against the tyranny of the Antichrist. But can't you see that the way that we're going, that we're not going to be a nation that fights against his tyranny? We may very well be a nation that joins him and supports him and uplifts him for the tyranny that he's doing across the globe. But the point I'm making is nobody knows who this guy is. Nobody knows what happens to America. So those that know the Bible and those that know eschatology never talk about America. It's just something they won't mention because, you see, if I can't give you any good news, I'm not going to tell you nothing. So a lot of people just don't say anything, right? So let me tell you what I found. Studying under someone once, I found one verse in Scripture, an end times prophecy, that, in my opinion, speaks to America. Okay? It's one verse, and it's a powerful verse, and it speaks to where we are today as Americans. It speaks to that America first. It don't have anything to do with us. We're not getting involved. We only care about ourselves. We only care about what happens in our country. That stuff that's going on is across the ocean, not my problem, right? It's a verse in the book of Ezekiel, and it's in chapter 39, verse 6. And this is when God took judgment against, started out by Russia prophetically attacking Israel with boots on the ground, okay? And God defends Israel. God destroys Russia. But then God also turns his attention to other countries that believed that they were safe from all of the destruction. And in 39 verse 6, he says this. This is God speaking. I will send fire on Magog, Russia, and among those who dwell safely in the coastlands. Then they shall know that I am the Lord. Them that dwell safely in the coastlands, looking up the definition and meaning of this passage, it's for nations that are separated by continents through oceans, that believe because of the vast oceans that is separating them from this calamity, that they feel like we're safe. It's not our problem. We have nothing to do with this. So in their selfishness, not to stand up and help, in their selfishness to say it's just about us, it's not our problem, whatever happens across the river happens across the river. Somehow God, who feels like, wait a minute, retrospectively, I'm speaking in terms of America. You wanted freedom. You wanted religious freedom. You were birthed in my word. You touted my word. You said you believed in my word. You said you knew me. You said you knew my son. You said you knew what love is, and he's love. But now it's all about you. Now you're so selfish. Now you don't want to feed 1.5 million children. Now you don't care about what's going on in Ukraine. Now you don't care about the deaths in Ukraine. Now you don't care what's going on in Sudanese. Now you don't care what's going on over here and over here and over here. So that God says, then I turn my attention of those who dwell safely in the coastlands. Now, that's a little verse. Could mean anything, right? Well, it could, and you can dispute me on that and I'm sure a lot of your pastors and friends say it's got nothing to do with America. But you know what happened the other day? You know, sometimes prophecy is prediction, right? And so I was watching our president do a news reel, a news meeting, a press conference with the Prime Minister of the UK. The Prime Minister of the UK was talking about Ukraine and how Ukraine is being attacked and the deaths in Ukraine. And we have to rise up. We've got to be a global a people that supports Ukraine. And we have to be a global people that goes against Russia and puts deeper sanctions on Russia and stop what Russia is doing in Ukraine, right? So then our president gets up to speak. Now, I want you to listen to what he said in reference to this scripture verse that I just read. Now, tell me if he's not saying exactly what this scripture says.
But the Russia situation, I hope we're going to have some good news for you coming up. But again, it doesn't affect the United States. And it doesn't so much affect you. Of course, you are a lot closer to the scene than we are. We have a whole ocean separating us. But
now you heard what he said. Those who dwell safely on the coastlands. Ukraine is not our problem. Whatever Russia does in Europe is not our problem. Because why? Because we're safe. We're separated by this huge big ocean. We're okay. Can you not see that that is a recipe for destruction? The very words of our commander-in-chief that he's saying aligns perfectly for this scripture verse. And I have to say, can you find something better and positive about America in scripture right now? You can't. Trust me, I've looked. I know people better than me that looked, and they could not. And what I'm saying to you is this. When you see how America's going, and you see this America First policy, you heard his America First policy. Can you not see that we feel somehow that we are secure in ourselves? That we don't need allies, that we don't need friends, that we don't need soft power, that we don't need to feed people anymore, that we don't need to help out our neighbors anymore. We don't need to stand up for democracy across the globe anymore. That stuff is just out of our wheelhouse now. We're Americans. Let's listen to it again. And it says, and I'll read it before I play it. I will send a fire on Russia and among those who dwell safely in the coastlands. I will send fire to those who dwell safely in the coastlands.
But the Russia situation, I hope we're going to have some good news for you coming up. But again, it doesn't affect the United States. And it doesn't so much affect you. Of course, you are a lot closer to the scene than we are. We have a whole ocean separating us. But
did you see the look on the Prime Minister's face? Did you see how he was just like aghast of the whole thing? Like, how could you say that? We're allies. How could you say that? If Russia takes Ukraine, it's going to take Poland. Poland's in NATO. Poland has Article 5 protection. Putin's already flying drones over Poland. They're shooting them down. The other day, he scrambled air jets and jet fighters in Poland. But our president says, listen, not our problem. Okay. Well, Billy Graham in his greatness said this. If God didn't bring judgment on America, he would have to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah. God destroyed the whole city I'll go back and look that up. Now, if God doesn't bring judgment on us, he's got to go back to all those people in Sodom and apologize. Now, for some of you Christians, let me just make that plain. Sodom as in sodomy. What was in Sodom? Fornication, homosexuality, men and men, women and women, you name it, all that kind of stuff. Rob, steal, kill, hurt, maim, assault. As a matter of fact, they wanted to assault men. So there was all kind of freaky stuff going on. Now, for all of our Christian brothers who takes this pompous stance with the Bible and against those that have a different sexual preference than we do, yes, the Bible says it's wrong. I got it. I agree. But we say it sometimes with so much arrogance. Do you realize what Billy Graham is really saying? Because I'll make it plain. If God doesn't bring judgment on America for its selfishness and its pride, its arrogance, its ignorance, then God is going to have to apologize to the homosexuals and the gays and those transgenders and everybody else that was in Sodom and Gomorrah when he wiped it to ash. Now, that seems crazy for a Christian to think that God would apologize to those type of people. But it's either God apologizes to those type of people, or like Billy Graham said, something has to go down to bring America back to God. Which would you rather have? Good question. I'll see you next time for Revelation News. Always look at news ahead. See how it would affect you. See what the choices that we make and our politicians make every day that affect us years from now, even when we're gone, and how it will affect your grandchildren. Goodbye.